Hello, fellow dreamers, and welcome to Boundless. We're your well-being refuge, offering meticulously crafted tools, posts, and products to help guide you in the pursuit of a purpose-filled life. This watercolor exercise will be the first in a series to teach you art techniques in combination with some mindfulness practices. In this exercise, you're going to make a legend of all the colors in your palette along with a color wheel for future reference. While you're working, I'll share some basic information about color theory. As with most facets of art, you could spend a lifetime learning about a single topic. I'll provide a pretty solid foundation here, but definitely suggest diving as deeply as your interest takes you. Let's get started. Start by dipping your brush into water, then putting the wet brush tip into the pigment and putting the pigment on the paper. This is a very easy process that hopefully gets you well acquainted with how the water and the color interact with the page. Between the placement of each color, make sure that you wash off the brush tips so that you don't end up with muddied colors. You can test whether or not you have too much pigment on your brush tip by dabbing it onto your towel. Once you've got all your colors to the page, try playing around a little bit. Mix red with blue and make some purple. Mix complementary colors, blue and yellow, to get some green. Try out some simple line art. Use tons of water and make a brush stroke. Use a tiny bit of water and make a brush stroke and see how that looks. Just play around and familiarize yourself. While you continue playing around and familiarizing yourself, I'm going to get into a little bit of color theory with you. This is a super fun and useful exercise to do when you've got a new set of color supplies. It's especially valuable for mediums like watercolor or glazes for ceramics, where the color you put to the surface sets into a sometimes significantly different shade. As you paint, take a look inward to notice how each color makes you feel. Not only is this a wonderful opportunity for practicing mindfulness, it may also help you determine the tone of future work. You'll have the insight to choose colors that evoke specific emotions or perceptions. This awareness, in combination with an understanding of the power and uses of color, will help you effectively express yourself and create successful compositions. Every color has three basic qualities: hue, luminosity, and chroma. Hue is pure pigment devoid of any tint or shading. Hue is the origin of every color. When you see images of the multi-layered color wheel, the outer colors are the hue. So for example, if you pick the blue slice of a color wheel, within it you may find sky, cobalt, cerulean, or navy, but the hue itself is blue. The others are derivations created by shading, which is mixing in black or tinting, or mixing in white. Luminosity, or value, refers to the lightness of a color and its overall intensity. The more white a color contains, the brighter and more luminous it becomes. The more black a color contains, the darker and lower in value it becomes. Chroma is the intensity versus neutrality of a color. Each instance a color mixes with another, the saturation diminishes and becomes more muted. It diminishes most significantly when mixed with the color furthest from itself on the color wheel. For example, red and green are opposite one another on the wheel, and when mixed create a very earthy brown. I'm going to give you a few more minutes to play, and then we'll check back in and make our color wheel.
What's your favorite color from the palette? What emotion did it elicit from you? What sort of composition can you imagine creating with it? Now for your color wheel. On your page, make a large circle and draw 12 circles around the circumference. I use the top of my smallest pot to make the large circle and a quarter to make the 12 small circles. Feel free to freehand instead. Like most things, this does not need to be perfect. Let's get started. This is the perfect opportunity to use the wet on wet technique. Fill each of your circles, the smaller circles, with water, then add pigment to your brush, and then add that to the circle of water. It is the most fun thing to watch. You can see the color interact with the water. It's like a little ocean happening right on your page. While you're working, I'm going to give you my 2 cents on the primary colors that we've been taught our whole lives and walk you through a little bit more of some color theory. Since childhood, we're taught that red, yellow, and blue are our sole primary colors. As I've spent most of my career creating art for print where cyan, magenta, and yellow are used to create color-rich printed pieces, I agree more with the theory that CMY should be heralded above RYB or RGB as our best primary color system. Especially when you consider you're not meant to successfully mix any other colors to create a primary color, but mixing magenta and yellow in print, ink, or paint gets you red. Also, there's an entire spectrum of vibrant colors lost if you don't begin with CMY as your primary colors. Before I inadvertently get you in an argument with the passionate color expert, please note that this is my opinion because bright colors are my jam and I work in pigment and not with light. I'm sure there are compelling cases to be made for RYB and RGB as superior color systems. Share your pitch with me if you feel so moved. One last color theory tidbit I want you to take away is brought to you by Fiona Apple, who sums up complementary colors up perfectly and poetically. Side by side, they both get bright, together they both get gray. So when colors across from one another on the color wheel are used in harmony, side by side in a piece, they pop due to the high contrast. When complementary colors are mixed, they lose hue, becoming more neutral or grayscale in color. The more you learn about color theory, how colors interact with themselves and within our minds, the more information you have to create an evocative piece. So as you'll notice, I opted for teaching you the traditional RYB, red, yellow, blue. So to get started, you put your red at the very top. You count 2 over to the right and put your yellow. When you're ready for blue, you start at red again. Count 2 over to the left and put your blue. To make green, you want an equal mix of yellow and blue. And because green is red's complementary color, that will go exactly opposite of the red swatch at the very bottom of your color wheel. As you start mixing your colors, I want to let you know the closer you are to the primary color itself, the more of that color you should have in the swatch adjacent to it. So
If you're working on making the purples that come between blue and red, in the circle, one over to the left from the red, that will want to have more red than blue. And then the circle to the right of the blue, one over, should have more blue than red. So just keep that in mind as you're creating all of the colors. All right, so I'm gonna let you focus. Take your time and keep mixing. We have about 5 to 7 minutes left. So if you get done with your color wheel beforehand, again, I encourage you to play. It's especially fun to see the complementary colors side by side. So if you want to make little swatches of that, just to see how they do pop, and then maybe mix those two and see how they make that gray or neutral color, that could be a really fun way to see color theory in action. end here, I wanted to show you a nice process on creating a rich black where you can kind of control either making a black that's a bluer, cooler in shade, or a redder, warmer shade of black. Most palettes come with black, but they're kind of papery and don't have the same level of opacity that this rich black that you can create on your own makes. It's the same when you create for printing. You want to use a registration black, which means you have an equal mix of cyan, magenta, and yellow. Well, it doesn't have to be equal, but you want to have a mix of those to create the black rather than just a simple spurt of black ink that won't have the same depth and richness. How are you feeling after spending this time in color? Were you surprised to learn anything about color in theory or in practice? How about yourself? How did the process itself feel? Were you able to release some control over the water and pigments? Will you be working with more or less luminosity? Do you prefer a neutral or saturated palette? Please take what you've discovered here, toss it around in your mind, and let it flow to the page. So proud of you. You did it. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to share your journey, please find us across the social media universe at Hello Boundless. We'd love to see the beauty you created. If you like what we're up to over here, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It means the world to us and helps us grow our little business baby. Visit helloboundless.com for gorgeous goods and more rituals, and let us know what you hope to see next time in the comments. We're so grateful for you. Love you. Bye.